Good tidings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Landy Lodge podcast. Before we launch this episode, we have some special people we need to thank, those special people being the sages of the lodge, those who donate monthly to keep the lodge moving. If you'd like to become a sage of the lodge by donating as little as $1 a month, you can find a link in the episode description, be it whether it's on YouTube or any of the audio platforms. So, thank you to everybody, thank you to the Sages of the Lodge, and thank you for tuning in. And without further ado, let's get on with it. Ladies and gentlemen, the sickos and the normies, welcome back to the Landy Lodge. In the lodge today is a man who needs no introduction, but he's gonna get one anyway. My man BioRoxus is in the lodge today. My dude, how are you doing?
Hello, how we doing? Thanks for having me on.
Dude, it's
My buddy Lunar Lux was on, and I was like, "Hey, I know him." So I listened to the episode, and you guys brought up some really interesting stuff. I think that's what connect us. I think
Yeah,
I
no,
posted something about. I think I was posting a response to you. I made a tweet or something, and then
yeah, you posted something on Twitter, and it's kind of funny. I'm noticing in a very Kingdom Hearts way, and everyone being connected. It's like I have one person on to talk about Kingdom Hearts, and in some way that leads me to somebody else to have on.
mm,
So it's almost like there's this chain of hearts following their way
yeah,
into the
right.
Lady
Oh
Lodge.
yeah,
So
I
go
don't know
ahead.
if it works for other like fandoms or like YouTube spaces, but from what I've seen, there's a lot of people that just kind of like connect, and because we all love Kingdom Hearts, and so it's not like about like numbers of views or subscribers, and so like everyone just like hangs out. It's so cool. I
Yeah,
love it.
no, it really is cool. And, everybody has like their own unique perspective. And I feel like everybody has some sort of theory that nobody else is thinking of yet, just because, we were talking in the pre roll.
Mm,
Kingdom Hearts is a bottomless pit of topics and ideas and theories. Before we continue, I do want to ask you, I ask every guest. So,
yeah.
what is it about Kingdom Hearts that's made you fall in love with it so much? Like, why Kingdom Hearts? There's endless game series and content out there. Why did Kingdom Hearts reel you in?
Ah, man, put me on the spot. Okay. Let me think. Really, just the characters, I think. So
Okay.
all the characters, personally, I feel like all the characters are written this way that they speak and resonate with different people. Um, so like one person will love Roxas because he's edgy, and someone will love Roxas because like that's what they remind themselves from childhood, or
Mhm.
because like of that one arc where he's standing beside Shion and waiting for her to wake up. And like I feel like there's so many different facets to all these characters, and it's so easy to connect with them because one, there's so many, but also two, they're really well written.
They're
So for
really
me,
really
yeah, the
well written,
characters.
yeah. And I think for me it's a lot of the characters too, just because it's at the end of the day, it's the interactions between the characters that have us fall in love with them, right? Like
Oh yeah.
it's Roxas's connections that make him more and more interesting. So I think that's very cool. I the more I talk to people, most people say it's the story or the characters, and that's not a knock on the gameplay at all. Which that's something I wanted to get into with you because your channel primarily was built around these combat breakdowns and these combat
Mm.
analysis. And I remember stumbling upon it years ago and just being
Mm.
like, well, this is a unique channel. I'm a crackhead who comes up with random theories. Like you're actually breaking down the combat and in a sense making people more effective players at the game. What inspired you
Oh,
to want to
that's a
do
lot of
that?
pressure. Honestly, because I'm not a gameplay person, and I always say that. Like I'm very much like not in that scope of like players. Because if you ever watch like a stream of mine, it's like a meme that like I'll just go do a breakdown on it, then you'll be good at it. And it's like, no, like I've done like data battle breakdowns and I still am garbage at data battles. Um, so it's really funny how I ended up in like the kind of gameplay circles.
Mhm.
And also it's kind of nice because I feel like I'm able to lend like a casual perspective on that, because in a lot of places when it comes down to gameplay, it's getting down to nitty gritty mechanics, and it's always like what's optimal, what does the most damage, what does this. And so everyone cuts out all these abilities that don't work because they're not optimal. And so like for me to come in as a casual and like look at like, oh, what were the devs thinking with this ability? What were the devs thinking with this? Like, how do these animations connect? And so, yeah, it is kind of like I feel like that's how I found my niche, was just like this unique perspective on usually a hardcore aspect of the game, but coming at it with like a casual perspective.
Well, I'll say I think one of the best things about your content and what you're getting at is you make it very approachable. You know, it's not like when I watch your content or even just see the way you present it in title and thumbnail, I don't get the impression like, "Oh, this is just for anyone doing level 1 critical." You
Mm,
don't really give off that impression. You give off this impression of, "Hey, this is going to help you no matter where you're at." I don't know.
mm.
I've always found it interesting.
Yeah,
But
especially with like the boss battles. More of it is
yes.
like, oh, here's all the openings I know of. Usually I'll miss one or two. Um, but my main focus, and that's why I don't really like doing boss breakdowns too much, is because I like focusing on the animations. Um, with Sora especially, like all of his form changes, like I still love talking about form changes because the animations were just so well done and they were so unique and were callbacks to previous games or like previous franchises. Like my favorite one is Highwind in Stormflag, because Highwind is literally just a dragoon from Final
Mhm.
Fantasy. And so like it's so cool to see that stuff. Um, and it's really cool to see the time and energy that went into those animations.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's stuff like that that gives you the feel that the people working on these games have a love for the game.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
overlaps like that don't happen unless it's a labor of love.
Mm.
I did want to talk to you because this has become a hot topic recently. Union Cross is ending.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on Union Cross? How much did you play it? Where do you rank its story among the series? And how do you think, in what way can you imagine this ending? I know I threw a lot on you there, but I feel like
Okay.
we could
So
just
how did I get
broadly
into
talk
it?
about it.
How did I get into it? Where do I rank it? And what do I think the ending is going to be?
Yeah, or something we might see from the ending, because we're probably going to get a dump truck load of stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. So I got into it actually with when it first released. I was at this internship that really just gave me like a bunch of free time at a desk. And so, and so I'd always like be playing that because I just had a bunch of free time. So yeah, I was there at the outset. I'd never like, this is before I was doing YouTube, and before YouTube, I'd actually never connected with the Kingdom Hearts fandom, and so I didn't read like the forums. I wasn't on Reddit, definitely not on Twitter. Um, and so I really just played it by myself. Didn't join any unions, and fell off pretty quickly. I think I got to like, I don't even know where Agrabah is, but I remember like getting to Agrabah and kind of just stopping. Uh, I didn't really know too much about the story until I started getting back into the fandom with, or that's when I first got into the fandom with Kingdom Hearts 3. And then I, found Demo and watched all his content.
Oh, it's so
So,
helpful. That guy deserves all the credit in the world, man.
oh yeah, no, he does a fantastic job of, putting everything into really concise story videos.
Makes it way
Um,
more digestible than playing the game.
definitely. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, where do I see what's something I want to see happen in the end? I want to see I want to see where Dark Chirithy went, or like,
Okay.
um, or whatever happened, because like he gets destroyed, but he's like, I'm gonna be back, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, I want to see. Ah, man. Okay, let me think. I want to see what happens with Ventus, obviously,
Oh yeah.
because I want to know if Vanitas is actually part of that darkness that they were talking about, or if there's something else lurking within him.
Well, there's something going on with Vanitas that always like at least intrigued me. Like, is he just the darkness of Ventus's heart manifest, or is he something in Ventus's heart that darkness sort of possessed? It's
Right.
it doesn't, maybe I'm confused or maybe I'm not in the know, but it doesn't seem to be too clear right now which of that it is.
Well, then you also have to ask, like, is every single, because darkness dwells within everyone's heart, right?
Yep.
Is that darkness in their what is it, sentient conscious? And is it connected with the rest of the darkness? Or are all of these like different pieces of like individual darkness? Because Vanitas definitely seems like he knows way more than he should. Um, and the whole like conversation and remind with Sora in that darkness if that is actually Vanitas or if it's someone else.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's one of the things I love about the series is like you would think you could see Sora be like Vanitas, and then you could just run with, oh, okay, so darkness is Vanitas, and it's like, nah, that could easily
yeah,
be a red herring, like very easily.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm interested just in all of that of like what is darkness and how does it like it almost makes me think of like Keyblade and the Keyblade of like, oh, we have all these different Keyblades, but there's also like one higher up Keyblade, right? And so
yeah, at the
is that
top
like
of the
how darkness
pyramid.
works, where there's like all these like individual pieces of darkness, and then there's one like higher being of darkness?
You know
Or
what? Actually, I think I have something for that. I
oh yeah.
actually don't think they work that way. I think that's the way um that's the way maybe sort of the light side works is like you have these self-realized individuals, but darkness has made
Mm.
it clear in Union Cross that they're just one big collective. You
All right,
know,
okay.
it's like all one ethereal thing. And that's again what makes Vanitas sort of interesting because he seems to be pretty individual. He seems to be pretty individually realized, but he seems to be a part of something that's more of this sort of submissive collective to the dark.
Hmm. Okay. I would say that maybe we haven't seen the real light, and that's why we see these individualized pieces of light.
Yeah.
Because again, in Reminds, like the Master Masters is talking with young Xehanort and like mentions like the false light.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which that's
so
another one that could throw anyone for a doozy.
yeah, it's like, okay, well, is this like, okay, is this not the actual light? Like what
Yeah.
is this? Are they talking about Lux or are they talking about actual like the light side? Or it's so confusing.
Yeah, it's definitely not straightforward.
Yeah.
But I know for me, when it comes to Union Cross, I just want to know where did all the dandelions go? How did they get like fill in the gaps, right? Like fill in Lorium's gaps between where we are in Union Cross and Chain of
Mm.
Memories. You know, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
Lorium
looking
is really
for.
interesting.
Yeah, he's a character who, like, when we first met Marluxia way back in the day, I would have never
Mm.
guessed he'd end up this interesting or be a character I cared this much about.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like I did not I did not care about Marluxia in the slightest, especially when he just shows up as like a data org in KH2. I was like, who's this? Like, who cares? I was like, yeah, Chain of Memory is cool. That was, that was a copy. No one cares
Mhm.
about that. There's nothing
Well,
important there.
well, there's a video you made that I absolutely love and I think is true, and that's you analyzed the Marluxia boss fight in Chain of Memories, and I
Oh,
said,
yeah, that was
yeah,
cool.
and you were like, so that's probably Shirlitsia. And I can't help
Oh,
but think
yeah.
you're right. The color scheme is there. Like
Yeah,
it's
for
all
sure.
seems to be there. And like, I have to ask this to everybody. It's like, how much of this is planned beforehand and how much of this is like pieced together after the fact?
I think Nimura does a great job of leaving hooks
Mm-hmm.
where he has a general idea of what he wants to do. Since Kingdom Hearts 2 onwards, I think he has said that he knows where he's going with the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I see like the not even hooks because like he didn't have to go back and explain why Marluxia was on top of a giant nobody. Um, but later on, he'll leave these pieces where maybe he doesn't exactly know what he wants to happen there, but he knows that he wants to use that, and so he'll leave it open enough so that he can come back and tie in these loose ends.
Perhaps like the arc in Kingdom Hearts 1,
Yeah,
which,
exactly.
which that's been tied in a way I could have never imagined.
No, but I mean, even if you go back and play Cage 1, you can see that there's indentions for people to be in those pods. So like he knew he wanted to use that, um
So nuts.
but I don't think he knew exactly how he wanted to do it. um so
Yeah. No, I could see it was part of the larger world. It just didn't quite have its function yet, or at least its function wasn't needed to be
well,
revealed yet.
even
Oh.
the end of the world, I mean, that's a mechanic we saw with the final world in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Mm-hmm.
uh and in KH1 we have this place where the hearts of worlds are going to, but they're not passing on yet, and that's the same idea as the final world.
Yeah, it's like
And so
that was a purgatory for worlds, and the final world is like a purgatory for hearts.
exactly. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's
Huh.
crazy how much it connects. And I think people kind of write off how hard that is to do. Like
Very,
it's
I mean,
one
over the
thing
course
to,
of 20 years too.
yeah. And you can definitely tell that like themes change or like the writing style changes throughout Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the first one, especially the second one, it's very like anime feelish.
They doubled
And
down on the whole shonen vibe in Kingdom Hearts 2.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you get to like Dream Drop Distance and Kingdom Hearts 3, where it's still this like vast adventure and story, but just the tone of it is just so different.
That's a very good observation. I agree. You do see a
Mhm.
lot of tonality changes as the series gets older.
And I think that's cool because if it stayed in that shonen esque style, I don't think it would have kept people coming back.
No, because then, I mean, and we deal with this problem already, but had they kept it in that shonen style forevermore, everything would always just come back and be compared to Kingdom Hearts 2. And again, we kind of have that problem now, but um, if they didn't change from that, there's no way to move on, right? Everything would
Mhm.
just feel like a loose copy or a loose intimidation. It's very
Yeah.
obvious to me that Kingdom Hearts 3 and Kingdom Hearts 2 have their own identities to them.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say so much the shonen aspects because maybe writing style they would have also compared it to KH2 because
Mhm.
gameplay is definitely something that's very subjective. But KH2 really nailed it. And so where was I going with that? Anyways, yeah.
Anyways. Well, I want to move on from Union Cross a little bit.
Okay.
Not that I don't love it. I do love it, and I can't wait for the finale. But I'd have to be honest, the corner of this world that has me the most intrigued has to be Quadratum, Yuzora, and the Master.
Mm.
What are your general thoughts on everything going on there?
Honestly, I haven't given a lot of like brain space to it, to be honest. Well, I'm in my last year of my counseling program, so I'm doing my internship and I'm gone like 12 or 13 hours, like Monday through Thursday.
There you
And
go.
so like my weekend is like literally like I'm getting home, I'm like taking care of my house, and then like trying to like create some content for the week.
Mhm.
And so like I don't, and you can see it on the channel, like I haven't put out a lot of theories in a really long time because
It's a
it
lot
takes
of
way too
bandwidth.
much.
It's a lot of
It
bandwidth.
really is. But I think Quadratum is interesting because it's again that tone shift.
Big time.
And I don't know if I don't know, because I can't see how they're gonna fit Disney into that. And
I
that's
think
what I'm most interested in.
I actually think, and this is what I'm thinking, I could be wrong, but I really think Quadratum is a way to sort of divorce the two crossovers in a way, not in a bad way. Maybe
Mhm.
divorce is the wrong word, but it's like we have what is the Kingdom Hearts reality, where we have all the Disney worlds and these Final Fantasy characters and Square references are homeless. Like when we meet the World Ends With You gang in Traverse Town,
Mhm.
they're homeless. That Traverse Town, if I'm correct, is the town like when your world is destroyed, that's where the I guess residents can find a home, right? Isn't that how it works?
Traverse Town, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Quadratum is very well could be where all the Square influence and properties stem from, where they sort of originate from. Because we seem
Mhm.
to be going into the whole Versus 13 thing, and Quadratum seems to be the
Yeah.
home of that. Like the
Oh,
name
I was
was
so excited for Versus 13.
right. Oh, dude. Man, oh man. But I really think what's happening there is Quadratum is going to be a place for the Square influences to reside. Because like even the Final Fantasy characters in Traverse Town, they very
Mhm.
well have like a Disney spin on them, right? Like take Aerith, for example. Aerith's design in Remind looks nothing like the Aerith in Remake. They almost, in a sense, Disneyfied her a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think Quadratum is a way to sort of like give a platform for the Square influence and Square properties. Like you're seeing that with the tonality shift. Do you
Mm.
think, do you think we start to see more Square properties infiltrate the series for crossover? Because we have Final Fantasy, we
I
have World
would
Ends
love
With
to
You.
see that. And
Do you think we
that's
do?
one of the things I thought of when it first got revealed that Sora was like crossing over to this other world.
Mhm.
Um, because what was it? Because see things with like Final Fantasy 15 where they talk about like a video game that had a key that could open any lock, right? That's like
Mhm.
a nod over to Kingdom Hearts. And then in the Kingdom Hearts secret movie, you see like the crown on the billboard to like reference a game, and then all of Yozora's clothes have
Keyblade shit
Kingdom
on.
Hearts.
Yeah.
So like his shirt has like the cross pattern that you see. I'm trying to think of what would be a good reference. Pretty much like it's like a chessboard, right? And then it has like in the black squares, it has like Roxas's nobody sigil, or like the heartless symbol. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I
Or
don't
his
think I have.
earring. His
I've
earring
seen
has the
earrings.
nobody sigil.
Yes.
And so it's like it's almost like Kingdom Hearts is a franchise, right? And they're selling merchandise, and so in that world, Kingdom Hearts is just a game.
Which would explain Yozora's confusion when he's like, yeah, I've heard of you, but why are you using that name? I'd like to see it. I mean, do you think, like, what do you think? You think we see Chrono Trigger show up in the middle of Kingdom Hearts? Like, do you think more properties like that show up?
I think if they were going to do that, it would have to be a Verum Rex title. I can't imagine that they could sell a Kingdom Hearts game that would market towards the Square Enix audience.
That's a very interesting point. And
because with Kingdom Hearts, sorry.
No, you're good, man. Go ahead.
All of the marketing for Kingdom Hearts is always Disney worlds. Like, here's this world, and here's this world, and here's this world. And they play it like, I remember with Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out, they'd play it like before Disney movies in theaters. Like, I can't imagine them shifting that to, oh, hey, look at like, here's Nier Automata and here's like Chrono Trigger. Like, I don't think that'll grab people or hit that nostalgia the same way.
Well, I think you're 100% right, but I think they might find a clever loophole, because if I were to try and do this, right, I'm looking at Union Cross, where the last story's taking place in Wreck-It Ralph. Have you seen the Wreck-It Ralph movie?
I saw the first one.
So you remember that concept that there's like this, it looks like Grand Central Station in New York. It's like this underground train station where every rail takes you to a different video game world.
Okay.
I almost feel like you might be able to see something like that in Quadratum, because think about it. Toy Box existed within sort of that Quadratum space, right? Like, they knew who Yozora was. They knew. So like, you almost see them sort of meld together. I think it's possible that in Quadratum, you could still have a lot of Disney influence. Like, maybe you get to other Square properties by going through the Wreck-It Ralph world, and Ralph has to travel with you.
Yeah, that could work.
Just random ideas.
No, yeah, I remember seeing this because this is in Union Cross, right?
Yes.
There's a Union Cross part where someone like opened up the rest of the map so that you could see let me see. I want to say they saw some kind of name on the.
Uh-oh.
Let me see. It could be nothing. Maybe it was blank, but there was like, they like pulled up and they could see like because each like station has the name of the game right on it.
Yes.
And I want to say they like panned up and saw something else, but I can't find it right now.
Well,
but I mean, yeah, that'd be cool. Like, I think that'd be a great way to introduce it.
I think so too. I think there's endless possibilities they could do, because if between you and I, like, as much as Disney wants to play their heavy hand in this series, I think at the end of the day, what they want more than anything is the fat paycheck. And if Square can make a case like, hey, let us put some of our guys in here, you'd be opening yourself up to a whole other audience. Could be something they argue, by including a more mature game. Like, for example, like if they threw Nier Automata in, it's like, hey, you're going to reel in a bunch of those fans, because I'm sure they're looking at, how many Nier fans bought Soul Calibur 6 because 2B was in it, just to play as 2B. You could easily make that sort of argument if you wanted to. But again, what the mouse says goes, and the mouse wants what it wants. So, so do you think?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I mean, you go ahead. I have something for you after, but whatever you think. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Just real quick, like I could see them maybe like towards the end of the game of like one of their bigger titles having like a Square Enix world where you meet a bunch of different characters, maybe, or like see a bunch of different references. But I couldn't see them doing a full game and just taking out the Disney.
Definitely not. You'll never see that. I think one of the things that unfortunately is misunderstood by some Kingdom Hearts fans is like, this is a Disney game. It's a Disney
Yeah,
game developed by Square Enix. You're not going to take the Disney out of the equation. I
for
think the
sure. Yeah.
closest you could get to that was what you were bringing up. If they wanted to make like a Verum Rex game, you know?
Yeah. And I honestly, I feel like that's what Nomura wants. Like just with the whole Bear Rex commercial and franchise, and like it honestly, it felt like, oh, okay, this is what Nomura wants to do. And this is like, and Kingdom Hearts is gonna be that vessel to like maybe have like a Kingdom Hearts Bear Rex spinoff. And then he'll be able to tell his story.
That is a good point.
Do you know anything about Final Fantasy VII?
I fucking love Final Fantasy VII. I have a whole
Okay.
other podcast about it.
Oh, okay. So I've been, I don't want to talk too much about it.
We
Because
can.
it is still like the theory I'm working on is still like in the works.
Okay.
But the idea of Loveless and the archetypes that they introduce are seen throughout Kingdom Hearts. And I wonder if that idea of those archetypes will be like fully realized in Verum Rex versus 13. But that can be like a topic for another time because that's not this is in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about whatever we want, man. But at the end of the day, yeah, flesh that out. I look forward to seeing that video. I love Loveless. I mean, fuck it. Let's just sit on 7 Remake for a second here. Do you think we get Genesis in part 2?
Yes, for sure.
Right. It just seems
Maybe
like,
not even part 2. Maybe Intergrade.
you think we get him in
Like,
Intergrade?
I think we'll see a little bit of him in Intergrade. If you look at that Weiss, like that quick shot of Weiss, it doesn't look like they're all the same character.
Yeah, there's that one shot with the dude with like his eyes closed. It almost looks like he's having a bad dream, and that looks a little like Genesis. Or Gacked, I suppose I should say.
So
well, I
don't know
I always felt that his.
but
Well, I always felt that like you've played Crisis Core, right?
no, I haven't yet. I haven't
You
played
haven't.
any of not compendium, the compilation. I've only played 7.
Okay. Well, I think one of the things with Genesis that leaves. Okay, another question, and I'm sorry. Are you familiar with the hero's journey? Joseph Campbell, I don't know. If any of that rings
you're
a
talking
bell.
about the okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I think what throws a lot of people off with Genesis is when you think of the hero's journey and you have that circle, right? You think of the circle journey. His story ends at the bottom of the circle, the belly of the beast, right before the death and rebirth section. Like Crisis Core ends with his story sort of cutting off there. So I think Remake has a unique opportunity to tell the second half of that circle, his rebirth, everything that happens after Crisis Core.
I thought, doesn't he say that there's that scene at the end of Dirge, right?
The scene, where he's with Weiss, right? And he's like,
yeah,
exactly.
And the curtain falls on the next whatever.
Yeah. So I think they have a unique stuff with that. I mean, I wasn't a big Dirge guy. I don't know about you. I don't know anyone that was, so I'm not being controversial, but
How dare you?
Dirge. I'm hoping they can do a really solid retelling of what they were trying to do with Dirge. Can I look at what they were trying to do? And I think they have a unique opportunity to do it a little bit better this time around.
Do you know who Sleep Easy is? Does that name ring a bell?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. He has done a fantastic series about just like how Remake. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like he dives into all of the lore throughout the entire compilation and then links it to Remake, and it is just the best. And if you haven't watched it, you definitely should.
Interesting. I'm gonna pull that up right now and put it in that little watch later tab.
Hell yeah.
Sweet. But getting us back to Kingdom Hearts, it was nice to deviate for a little bit there. Nice little deviation. But getting us back to Kingdom Hearts, we're about 30 minutes in here, so we can let this run for another 10, 15.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you what your favorite game is. I know it's a touchy subject for some, but
Kingdom Hearts 3, definitely.
So I agree with you. Just put my cards on the table, but let me ask you why.
I feel like it's the most realized. So when you play Kingdom Hearts, it's not a lot of people like to focus obviously on the gameplay, right? In the worlds. But the the way the characters are written, I know some people don't think they were written that well. But just how Sora interacts at the beginning is some of my favorite parts of Sora, because we see those cracks beginning to form. Like he's not strong
Yes.
enough. He's having to fight like within himself.
Mm-hmm.
So the characters are just so well written. There's so many different like dives into like literally just like the facial expressions that they made the characters do. Everything is just so detailed. The worlds are bigger than just like corridors.
The level
And so,
design for me is a
yeah,
big
it's
thing.
fantastic. I mean, you're I remember coming back to Olympus and I had missed this one secret area where like you attack one of the pillars and part of the floor falls away, right? And you
Yeah,
find like
yep.
4 or 5 chests, and just like the wonder of like, oh my god, like I'm being rewarded for exploring. Like the Pirates of the Caribbean world or Caribbean,
Oh
however you say
my!
that.
I spent hours.
Right? Like that was one of my
Hours.
least favorite worlds story wise when I was playing through, because I was just like rushing through it to get to the end, right?
Yep.
And I come back and I'm like, why didn't they have us like explore all these islands? Like this is fantastic.
Right. And you find it like when you want to like max it out and find all the ingredients and stuff, like it's pretty much mandatory. Like there's just tons, and it's not even just like, oh, here's an island with stuff. Like you have to like find the hidden cavern or make
Yeah.
your like blow away a path. Like there's a lot of creative things you have to do to get the most out of these little patches of sand and these little islands. I'm with you
Yeah, it's great.
100%. I think if Kingdom Hearts could really double down on like world exploration, like don't get me wrong, like there are reasons to go back to all the worlds and all 3 Kingdom Hearts games that give you reasons to go back to it, but I would like more of those sort of exploration incentives that were offered to you in Pirates of the Caribbean, or even in Jesus, which one did you bring up beforehand?
Oh god, I don't even know. Oh,
Olympus, yeah, exactly. I would personally love to see all of that. When do you think that we're not going to get any news in 2021 was a load of malarkey?
I don't think we'll get announcements, honestly. I think they're focusing on Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 14. I think that's where their focus is right now, and on the remake. I think Final Fantasy 7 remake is where they're focused this year. I can't imagine. Yeah, personally, I don't think we're going to hear anything. I hope we don't, honestly, because I think we need a break.
I got to be honest. I think it's malarkey. I think by the holidays, I think it's malarkey. We're not going to hear any announcements, and suddenly, okay, so Union Cross is ending. We're going to have that finale. I don't think we get a trailer or anything, but I do think they're going to let us in on it by the end of the year of what's coming, because 2022 is that's the 20th anniversary, and you know, if they're going to drop a game in 2022, if it's big enough, we're probably going to know about it before 2022. I think
it's possible.
I think they were just trying to clear some marketing room for all the titles that you mentioned. Because what was it like what was it like a month or 2 after they said that they dropped Intergrade? 14 made a whole bunch of new announcements shortly after that.
And Walker, I'm so excited. You
Dude,
play 14?
I don't, but actually I just finished a D&D campaign with a bunch of friends, and now we're moving that crew into Final Fantasy 14.
Hell yeah, it's awesome.
Dude,
and I'm glad you have a friend group to go through it. Realm Reborn is like probably the worst.
Well,
in terms of just like getting into it.
Does it matter which one you start at? Can you start at any of them, or
they're progressive? So
gotcha. Okay.
You'll start with Realm Reborn, and then because everything's level capped.
Okay.
And so once you finish that, it'll open up the Heavensward, quest line. All that. You can buy story skips, but I mean,
it's no fun.
Yeah, you really like. I wouldn't have been as invested into Heavensward if I didn't go through Realm Reborn.
Well, let me ask you. I hear some of the stories in 14 are immaculate. Would you echo that statement?
They're amazing. Like some of the best characters and story. Like it's amazing. Like I've never experienced something like it.
That's no easy feat.
It's amazing how much they've done with it. Like on that scale.
Man, I gotta tell you, I am so happy as a honorary Square Enix shill. I am so happy with the last 5 years because I feel like once we got to about the mid 2000s, Square
Mhm.
was like losing its footing a little bit. But then around that 2016, 2017, like they really started revving things up.
Yeah. No, they really did. Again, like I really didn't like even step foot onto the internet fandom space of any games until I got into Kingdom Hearts 3. Like,
Wow.
so I wasn't, and I didn't even come back to gaming until a while. Like, I fell off with Birth by Sleep, and
Mhm.
then I went to college and like was doing music and studying, and
Oh, you're a
got
musician.
into yeah.
What do you,
I
not to
went
interrupt you, but
into
what do you play?
I play like a little bit of guitar and piano and drums.
How very
Um,
interesting.
yeah. But where was I going with that? Anyway, so I fell off for a while, and then when I got back into Kingdom Hearts, I started making content on it, and that's kind of when I started to really get some interaction and connecting with the online world.
Well, I could give you, I guess, I got a little fun story for you, and maybe anyone out there, it's a Kingdom Hearts fan, you might find this interesting. But I've been like, I won't say it's been good, but I've been like in internet fandom since I was like 12. I'm 28 now. But I was, how old was I when I was about 12 years old when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, and I remember this game got absolutely shit on by everyone when it first came out. I think primarily I was in like game FAQs forums and stuff
Mhm.
like that from back in the day, and like Newgrounds forums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Kingdom Hearts 2 was railed on when it first came
Oh
out.
yeah.
And it's so funny to see it now where it's like held as this like master class of JRPGs. And it's like, wow, like you can't really judge a game until it's had like 10 years to age, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's in part to the final mix because
Without
people love that
question.
redemption story.
Yeah.
And also like I am a huge like proponent of like influencers and people online that you know are what's the word? I guess influencers.
Yeah.
um like they do their job, like they influence.
Mhm.
And so if you have people that are critical or or keep saying the same things over again, like that's gonna get repeated.
Oh,
I
like the word
think we've
floaty.
seen that. Oh God, don't. It's not get started with that. But
No, but you're right though. You're right though. And one of the things that makes the internet tricky is that at least from what I can observe, uh criticism seems to do a lot better numbers wise than praise for anything. It doesn't even matter what it is.
yeah, it's this weird, like if you're cynical, that must mean that you have some smart thing to say.
Well,
Which is
this is why I say
really
I'm a Square
odd.
Enix. This is why I tell people I'm a Square Enix shill. So that when I say I love Kingdom Hearts 3 and it's my favorite of the series, I'd be like, yeah, I'm a
Uh-huh.
shill. It's because I'm a shill. It's not because I have autonomy or I have values that I'm judging the game on or I have preferences. It's just I'm just simply a shill, and don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited about the next product. That's how I am.
Mm, okay.
I mean, slash sarcasm. I don't know if that's going
Okay.
over, if that went over your
Okay.
head.
I was okay. I was like, I don't know if he's being serious.
This is my biggest problem is like
uh
people and my whole life, people can't tell when I'm serious or I'm kidding. And I don't know what to do about it. I'm almost 30, so I've given up on changing.
yeah, I mean I'm the same way. Like I am very dry with my sarcasm. And so a lot of
You're
times
a lot better at it than me. You
I think I go to such an extreme that people are like, you okay, you have to be kidding. um but yeah, it's weird that like it's such a black and white thing that people look at of like, oh, either you hate this game or you love it. Like you're not allowed to just
you
like
can't give anything a
be there.
7 anymore, dude. It's like it's either a 10 or a 0 on the internet. Like
Yeah.
you can't even be like, "Oh, this game was a lot of fun. I would have done a couple things differently, but I still love it." And it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, you're just being overly forgiving."
Yeah, it's such a weird, and I've kind of honestly like because again, like Kingdom Hearts 3 was my introduction to the internet. And so when I got here, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be like positive and I'm gonna advocate. I'm gonna like, try to develop all this good discussion around games because people just either hate it or love it. And then now at this point, I'm like, I don't care anymore. Like I like my games. Like you don't. Well, because I've seen, like, I felt it all triggered when I fell down this rabbit hole. I was just looking back like 3 or 4 years back on discussions of Kingdom Hearts, and the same sentiments, the same discussions, the same arguments by the same people were being made. And I was like, oh, okay, like people don't actually want to change or discuss. They just want to say like
They want to regurgitate.
yeah. And so I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. like
Yes!
like nobody, unless like you're I don't even think if someone put together like such a detailed argument in like maybe like a video essay or like a topical video, like even then, like it's not gonna, the people that want to hate this game are gonna hate it, the people that want to love this game are gonna love it. And honestly, like when I accepted that, it was so much easier just to like, I don't know, move on.
Well, no, I'm with you. It's totally liberating, and it opens up the content that you're able to bring yourself to do. Like, at least I'll tell you a personal anecdote. I recently put out a video talking about why I think Kingdom Hearts 3 Sora is the best Sora, and you were going into some of that earlier, some of the points that I made in that video. I would have been terrified to make that video a year and a half ago. I would have been like, I feel like people are just going to come at me, tell me that I'm just like milking it, like or whatever the fuck they justify their disagreement with. But I was genuinely surprised how well received that video was, and it just leads me to believe I think more people love these games than wish to critique them. I just think it's so niche
it's such
and
a
so
loud
goofy.
minority.
Yeah, and the series is so niche and goofy that it's low-hanging fruit for anybody who wants to make fun of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But the thing is, at least with me, dude, like the goofy, silly stuff is half the reason why I'm here. And I think it kind of goes over some people's heads that like, yeah, that silly nonsense is pretty deliberate.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like literally what Sora's walking up to this Kingdom Hearts that's taken over by darkness, and Donald and Goofy are like stepping up beside him, and then they talk about like 3.5 pints together. Like it's supposed to be like just this like wacky.
You're running around the world with a talking dog and duck. Like it's supposed to be like it's what I love about it. I say it all the time. It's like a psychedelic fairy tale. Kingdom Hearts. Like it really feels that way to me. And I can't think of many other stories or franchises that have this same energy. And it's something I talk about a lot. And, to bring up the immortal Stan Lee, something he always said. And I think this resonates with video games as much as it resonates with comic books, is people love superhero movies because it's fairy tales for grown-ups. It's all the same stuff, the same superpowers, giants, witches, dragons, beasts, light, darkness, good, evil. It's all there, but it's fairy tales for grown-up because eventually we all get too old to read fairy tales, but none of us outgrow our love for that type of stories. So things like Spider-Man and Kingdom Hearts allow us to relive all of that. And that's what just makes it seem so special to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, like life is shitty enough. Like, why do you want to watch? I mean, like there's people want to escape, right? But like you can't just like say like, oh, I like this goofy game. It's like, no, I have to have a cool reason for why I like this goofy game.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like you don't have to justify the things you love. If you love something,
and realizing that is super liberating.
Absolutely liberating. Absolutely. But
because I'll always see it like on Twitter or somewhere online where people have this long disclaimer of like, oh, like, well, I like this game, but it's only because like this reason to this reason. Like, just you like it,
dude. Just say you like the game and tell me more things you like. I that's one thing I want to do. Always wanted to do with my content, my channel and stuff is I would so much rather talk about the things I love than criticize the things I hate. Because I feel like, that it ends up taking up place in your headspace. Like if you're spending every weekend hating on something and writing up a script to hate on something, like those sort of patterns stick with you. And then like you sort of like just kind of get stuck in this pattern of finding things you hate. or you almost start feeding off when you don't like something, and then you start seeking out things you don't. I don't know. It just I've seen it at least with some close friends of mine. It can set up some
There's
bad habits.
yeah. Yeah, I almost wonder if it's some kind of psychological thing of
Isn't it all at the end of the day?
yeah, right. But yeah.
But look, we're running up on time here. I want
Oh
to
wow, that
close
went
this.
really fast.
Yeah, dude, these things fly. It's so funny, like clockwork. Literally, everybody says that when we get to this point. But I want to give you some time. Just speak broadly about your channel, Kingdom Hearts content that you're looking to release, where people can find you, the whole ordeal. The floor is yours.
Um, okay. So I do a lot of like animation breakdowns. I kind of want to pull away from that. Not like really pull away, but evolve that kind of content to something. And I have some ideas in the works of more not I guess they're video essays, but just like taking a casual look at gaming. And I feel like that's really where my niche is opening up mechanics and gameplay to the more casual audience. But I do that on YouTube. So I'm Byroxis on YouTube, Byroxis on Twitter. Twitter, I don't really know what I do on Twitter. I think I just jump on and be chaotic. So if you want to see chaos, follow me, because sometimes I'm posting a hot take or showing off a cool detail in Kingdom Hearts. So and I stream on Twitch. So that's been a lot of fun. That's usually where like the most interaction you can get from me is on Twitch, because usually I'm just chilling, playing through 14 or a Kingdom Hearts game. So yeah, if any of that sounds interesting, drop a follow.
Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. You know where to find the man. He stands out. He's got Roxas as an avatar with those big old eyes. So look him up, Bio Roxas. As he said, you can find him on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Bio, thank you so much for coming on, dude. I really do appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime, and look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks. Yeah.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.